Welcome to Soul Garden, reanimating both the world and our souls. Drawing inspiration from healing gardens, Soul Garden is a place to rest and reflect, a place to collect beauty and meaning, a place of book therapy, nature medicine, the ways healing finds us, and a lot of tea. There is a story of missionaries from the West who traveled to an indigenous population suffering from the trauma and tragedy of war. The intentions of the missionaries were honorable. They were deeply desiring to help. However, their Western methods did not sit well with the natives. This is what one had to say. They would take people, one at a time, into these dingy little rooms and have them sit around for an hour or so to talk about the bad things that had happened to them. Their practice did not involve being outside in the sunshine, which is, after all, where you begin to feel better. There was no drumming or music to get your blood flowing again. When you are depressed and low, you need to have your blood flowing. We had to ask them to leave the country. Author unknown. Why do I tell this story? Because when someone has come through experiences or seasons of emotional trauma, the ability to laugh, play, or experience joy is often absent. Part of healing is reclaiming that ability without feeling guilt. Your soul was designed to live in freedom, delight, and lightness. So sunshine and drums? There was more wisdom in the statement from that native person than in many books. So let's look at it a little closer. The sun is light, warmth, and life bringer to our planet. Every ancient culture had its solar deity. Ancient Egyptians painted Ra, the sun god, as driving the chariot of the sun across the sky in the daytime and doing battle in the underworld at night. The Egyptian symbol of the winged sun showed a circular disc with outstretched wings on either side. The Hebrew prophet Malachi must have felt this imagery when he wrote, "The sun of righteousness will rise with healing in its wings." Humans have always understood that the sun is life and light, and darkness cannot exist in its presence. The sun always rises, no matter what the night held. In our world, science has reduced much of our poetic sun imagery into tests and measurements and talk of chemicals and hormone levels. And by physically measuring the healing benefits of sunlight, our minds are proving something our bodies always knew. That when we are outside in nature, in sunlight, our heart rate slows, our blood pressure lowers. We know that sunlight increases the levels of our happy chemical, serotonin, which boosts our mood. Today, light therapy is one of the first treatments used for seasonal affective disorder. The light in a light box is full spectrum light, like sunlight, and it triggers the same effects in our bodies as sunlight does. Jacob Lieberman said, "Light is the medicine of the future." Now let's talk about the second part of our wise native person's prescription, music and drums. We come to life to the sound of a drum beat. The first song we hear in the womb is a rhythmic beat of our mother's heart. Drums get our blood flowing. Drums make our feet move. Drum beats alter our brain waves. For a drummer, the rhythm of the drum stimulates the release of dopamine, our feel-good hormone, and endorphins, natural painkillers and feel-good chemicals. The drums our storyteller was talking about, however, was likely the drum circle. A drum circle is a casual gathering where the community comes together to sit in a circle and play drums, perhaps other instruments, and dance. You find the practice of drum circles in various indigenous cultures, though they were misunderstood, feared, and eradicated by religious colonizers. But what did they do, and why did the Westerners misunderstand them and fear them? The drum circle was both cathartic and communal, and both of those things strike a fatal blow against depression, grief, and isolation. Through the rhythm of the drum, the heavy emotions are moved through the body and released. This is the very definition of the word cathartic, which means to find relief by releasing strong pent-up emotions. You can feel this in laughter, the kind of good, strong laughter that can bring tears with it. In the same way, in the rhythm of the drum, in the dancing, the community was expressing and releasing their sorrow, their loss, together. And in the aftermath of that release, there is a feeling of calm, of joy, and quiet hope. The drum circle was also communal. The people were no longer isolated, sitting alone in dark rooms, as our wise natives said in the story. The community was no longer carrying their pains separately. They were no longer isolated. They were connected. To put it in the terms of science, the communal dance released oxytocin, the bonding hormone. So why did Westerners distrust the drum circle? The Western mind has been largely shaped by philosophers like Plato and other great minds. There is a rich tradition of wisdom, but with everything gained, there is often something lost, and that was the wisdom of the body. To the Western mind, the body was not viewed as an instrument of intelligence. But as science is now showing, the body holds memories. The mind itself cannot always tell the difference between the memory of an event and the event itself, especially if the event was strongly traumatic. We are beginning to understand that we can't just think our way out of sadness or talk our way out of grief. Words alone cannot fully touch trauma that's been stored in the body. Our wise storyteller knew that sitting in a room with another person who had not been through the same trauma was not going to release the painful memories held in the bodies of those who had witnessed this war. There is something else about the drum circle and what it represents. In the drum circle, or the communal dance, people became active participants instead of mere spectators. In the book, Dancing in the Streets, A History of Collective Joy by Barbara Ehrenreich, she talks about how much we have become an audience to life instead of active participants. She writes, interestingly, of the loss of ritual celebrations such as communal dancing and drum circles. She traces the history of how Western society, already strongly formed by the mind, increasingly lost connection with the body, and how community events and art performances followed suit. Over time, the audience became less and less a part of the event. Whether it was in the theater, the circus, or a church service, people sat still and watched. Barbara writes, at a military parade, for example, the martial music might be stirring and the marching soldiers themselves caught up in the pleasures of the rhythmic synchrony, but the good spectator stood perfectly still and, except when straining to see better, remained as unobtrusive as possible. End quote. Drawing on neuroscience research, she notes how unnatural this is to our instincts. And she notes that it does require effort to stay still in such a setting, an effort she calls the silent internal work of muscular inhibition. As the mid-20th century progressed, the Industrial Revolution was in full swing, and the world was becoming more and more mechanized, and with this came even more routine immobilization, as Barbara calls it. You can see this in the housewife commercials of the 1950s, idolizing a woman with a fitted and belted dress and heels, clearly not designed for unrestricted movement. Barbara writes, even entertainment meant sitting and watching TV. At a carnival or fair, machines did the moving for you. All the carnival goers had to do was sit in a seat and let the roller coaster or Ferris wheel propel their bodies along a pre-existing path. There is much more that could be said on this fascinating subject, but ultimately, as Barbara notes, no one reckoned the eventual price of all this physical and emotional repression and the move away from communal forms of emotional release. The rock phenomenon that swept the world in the 50s and 60s was one of the ways this price was paid. When we look at it with a cultural eye, we can see that the rock rebellion, with its strong audience participation, was a response to this cultural immobilization. It was the reappearance of the lost communal dance, the lost drum circle, in another form. Barbara writes this: "Rock struck with such force because the white world it entered was frozen over and brittle, not only physically immobilizing, but emotionally restrained." If you have come out of a religiously repressive background, you'll see a link. The heavy emphasis on order in high-control religious settings, the fear of a God who could not be linked with laughter, the repression of dress and body, the fear of free movement, of anything suggesting of the fact that we are humans with the same body parts as every other human on this earth. This repression, attributed to the demands of God, can leave us, like the world the rock rebellion entered, frozen over and brittle, physically immobile and emotionally restrained. Sunshine and drums, as our wise storyteller said in the beginning, can be a part of the journey to healing from that repression, to easing the heavy burden on the mind, to reclaiming our body, our freedom, and releasing long-buried emotions and fear. So when you feel like your light has dimmed, when you find it hard to breathe, when you feel the cold hands of darkness on your shoulder, just maybe a day of sunshine and drums is what you need. By lifting our face to the sun, we are connecting to the same sun, the same light that illuminates each person, animal, and plant on this planet. And in the lyrics of songs and the rhythm of the drum beats, we are connecting to others' experiences. Everything we feel and carry has been felt and carried by others before, is being felt and carried by others now. We are not alone. So move. Move the repression out of your body, your bones. Move it out of your voice. You may not find a community drum circle or a dance, but move the emotions out of your body any way you can. Breathe the free air. Run when you're angry. Walk slowly through the woods when you're grieving or tired. When the constraints and monotony of daily life weigh too heavy, find something that will let the wind flow through your hair. Learn to dance. Feel the rhythm of drum beats in your favorite song. There are some somatic therapy techniques that deal directly with moving repressed emotions out of the body. EFT, for example, uses rhythmic tapping on specific points on the body to heal trauma responses. This therapy, combined with gentle healing statements, interrupts the pathways of trauma responses. It focuses our attention on what is true and good and beautiful in the present. We cannot rewrite the past, but we can rewrite the way our minds and bodies respond to our memories of the past. You are not there anymore. You are here now, and you can heal. Sunshine, by the way, is not only the sun. It is the plants that hold the color of the sun, the colors of yellow and orange. These are the foods our bodies need in times of sadness and disconnection. Start with a simple cup of tea. Calendula and sunflower tea, the colors of the sun. This tea can also be used to make a smoothie. Cool 1 cup of the tea and add it to a blender. Then add a carrot, a banana, and the juice of 2 oranges. Blend with 1 cup of ice and drink it in the sun for the duration of at least 3 Springsteen songs. It's a drink that looks and feels like liquid sunshine. Lemons, with their sunshine color, are another wonderful food ally. A simple green salad with a squeeze of fresh lemon, olive oil, and a healthy salt, such as Himalayan or Celtic sea salt, is wonderfully bright and uplifting. And lemons squeezed into a glass of water make a delightful drink. Most importantly, let your skin drink in as much sunlight as you can. As Khalil Gibran wrote, "Forget not that the earth delights to feel your bare feet. and the winds long to play with your hair. Lay aside the trappings of propriety and cultural expectation, and free as much of your skin as you can to the light of the sun. Your body, the temple of your soul, will thank you. I'll leave you with another quote by Khalil Gibran. Oftentimes, in denying yourself pleasure, you do but store the desire in the recesses of your being. Who knows but that which seems omitted today waits for tomorrow? Even your body knows its heritage and its rightful need and will not be deceived. And your body is the harp of your soul, and it is yours to bring forth sweet music from it or confused sounds. Khalil Gibran.